So you probably have something like this in your closet, some pair of jeans or pants or a top that you love very much, but because you've gained some weight for one reason or the other, you can't fit it right now, but you are waiting for the time, the day, the year that you lose that, 5 pounds or 10 pounds to be able to fit into that outfit or jeans or whatever it is. And I confess I have those too. There are some things that I love. And when I had my third child, there's that belly that happens, there's the weight gain that you have that you feel like the last 5 pounds just don't want to get off you. And just save your jeans, your pair of jeans or pants for, whenever that will happen, whenever you can lose that 5 or 10 pounds or 15 pounds, whatever you're trying to lose. And I think this is what happens when we build our lives either around our past or the future person that we want to become. And today I want to talk to you about building your life for who you are now. Right? So we're not talking about reinvention in your 40s into 50s and 60s. We are not saying wait until you become that person to live life. We want you to actually live life now and build your life around who you are right now. Yes, you also hold the vision of what you are becoming, but we don't want to put our present life on suspension while we try to figure things out. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Because a lot of us we have the closest with the things from our past. And I want to talk about how you can stop designing your life around the old structures, around who you used to be, around what people expected you to be, around what you were told you have to be. In this second chapter we're in, we want to build our lives for the person that you are now, loving yourself now, accepting yourself now with the body shape that you have, with the belly because you had 4 or 3 kids, with the belly because you did gain weight, whatever your body shape is, not to feel like we're waiting to be that somebody else before we can actually enjoy the life now. So in talking about rebuilding our lives, reinvention, transition, and we are moving from one thing to the other, and we are building our lives in a more mature, intentional way. We really want to build it for the person we are today so we can enjoy the life today. So I'm just going to cover some things about how to rebuild. And we also don't want to rebuild the life for the person that we want to be, that optimized, productive person. For some of us who are very ambitious and goal-oriented, the optimize you, where you have everything, the schedule, the goals, everything in place, where the body is in shape, where you have lost the 15, 10 pounds, whatever. We don't want to do that, right? We don't want to build our lives around the imaginary future self of ourselves. I'm not saying you don't have some version of who you're becoming, because in this process of evolving from our last chapter into this second act, so we are becoming somebody new in some way. We're becoming someone who has clarity, someone who knows what they want, somebody who understands their season of life, all those things. So you're building with that in mind, but you're also really building the life that you can love today, not next year, not in 5 years, but who you are now, and loving yourself now, and loving your life now. Something else that you need to do in this rebuilding of our next chapter is to really get honest with what we have outgrown. And this is important, because when you don't take the time to actually take notice or really tally up the things like, what have I outgrown? What beliefs have I outgrown? What values have I outgrown? Who are the people have I outgrown? That's always a difficult one. But before we start rebuilding anything, we do want to take into account the things that we need to let go, the things that we've outgrown, the roles maybe we've outgrown. Because maybe at one time your kids were at home, you were a full-time mom, working, or all those things. When your kids are out of the house, that is no longer, that role that you used to play is no longer who you are. Actually, those roles are never who you are. We just make them who we are. But we have to come to a place of like, okay, let's count the things in our lives that we have outgrown, what needs to be left behind in the past, and what are we moving forward with. So that is another thing that you kind of get to do in this rebuilding. If you're trying to really rebuild your next chapter in a way that is going to be sustainable, in a way that you're going to actually love your life and not, just survive. Because a lot of times we're surviving our lives. And I've been through that where I felt like I was just in a survival mode to make it to the next day because you're so busy and so overscheduled. Another thing we want to do is ask different questions. So the questions that you had in your 20s, in your 30s, maybe they revolved around security, approval, external, validation, whatever it was. They're not going to be the same questions you have in your late 40s going to your 50s because you're not that woman anymore. You have changed, you have evolved. Your desires, your values, your beliefs have changed. So you really have to ask yourself some different questions than you did back when we were younger. Actually, I still believe that, we are, late 40s, mid 40s, whatever, 50s, you are as young as you want to be. So I'm just correcting myself that there. But what are the questions that, you can ask? It's no longer what should I want? What is expected of me? It's more of what do I want? Right? So you're asking different questions now. They have more to do with you than what other people think of you. And it also questions like, who am I right now in this season? Who am I? Who do I want to become? And it's not who should I, what do people expect me? What is the role? All the stuff that we've dealt with when we're younger is kind of not the same questions we want to be asking ourselves. And because another thing is that our priorities have shifted, right? I already said our values have shifted, our priorities therefore have shifted. So the questions have to be really different. What is important to me now? What matters to me now? What gives me energy? What gives me joy? What are the things? Because if you're getting this chance to rebuild, you want to rebuild your life and build the life that you want that is going to be again sustainable in a very in the long run. And this brings me to the next thing, which is building the life around your actual energy, not your ideal self, not the optimized you, but your energy. As in, are you a morning person? Are you maybe a late night person? I remember I've gone through seasons of I was waking up at 5 a.m. and doing other things. And I realized that I do that sometimes. There are times that I'm a night owl, and that was because of the kids when they were young, and I'd be up with them a lot. I ended up just being someone who sleeps late. And then there's seasons that I'm, when the kids are okay and they're a little older, I'm able to wake up early. So it all depends. Again, this, as you can tell, depends on, especially if you're someone with kids, it depends on what's going on with your kids. And, that affects your schedule, that affects your energy. So you want to build according to your energy and capacity that you are right now, not what you think you should be, or not what you think you're gonna be in a year or two. Like build a life that works with the rhythms in your life at the moment? What are those rhythms? And then you also leave room, right, for who you're becoming. So maybe you are trying to make some changes. Maybe you don't want to be the night owl anymore like you used to. What then does it look like? And how can you build this life, this next chapter that you're in, to accommodate who you are now and who you are becoming? Those are things that we need to consider as we are moving into this space of just knowing ourselves better and being older and wiser, that we are doing things differently. And something else you want to do in this chapter as you're building or rebuilding your life is to just make it simple. Because a lot of times we feel like in the reinvention, in the moving, in the transition from one thing to the other, we have to bulldoze everything and destroy everything and start from ground zero. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because sometimes it's just small, very small things that have to change. Not everything has to change at the same time. It can be a very simple process. Sometimes people are stuck in their old chapters, in not wanting to move forward because they're afraid of, oh, I have to start everything over. I have to leave everything behind and start this new thing. And there's so much of it. And then you just get overwhelmed with the thought of it, more than you actually doing the action. So we want to make it simple, and also just realizing it can be very simple, and it can start very small with very small steps to then whatever it is you're trying to become, but you're starting small and you're making it simple for yourself. And in the last thing I want to mention regarding building this life or designing your life for this chapter you're going into, or the chapter you're in already, is to understand that you're now designing for discovery. There should be curiosity. There should be excitement in this new chapter we're in this second act, right? We don't need to be clear about everything. We don't need to have the whole pathway paved for us before we step on the pathway. We don't need to have all the answers. Like, the part of the fun and the exciting thing of being in this second chapter of our lives is that you get to discover things about yourself. You get to discover your hobbies. You get to discover the things you desire that you never thought you did. You get to desire the things that make you laugh. You just get to desire, you get to discover all these things. And I hope I've not been saying desire instead of discover. You get to discover all this stuff, right? Hobbies, new things, whatever, new places, new people, new friendships, new relationships. And it is such a gift to be able to do that. So we are not designing a life that is like, this is how I want it to be, this is how it's going to be. There has to be flexibility. There has to be room for curiosity. There has to be room for spontaneity, for you being spontaneous. Let's say that word. Spontaneous, right? To make room for all those things as you are building this life, building this chapter in as you are in your 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond. It can be an exciting thing. And again, you don't need to have full clarity to start. You can start small. Well, I hope this was helpful as you are, if you're in transition, if you're in your second act and you don't know what to do, join our community. The link is in the description. And I do send a weekly, I do write weekly newsletters that go more in depth about this, about the second act, second chapter, what to do, why we are doing, what's happening with us women in this second act of our lives. So if you haven't done so, I would love for you to subscribe and to share with your friends who are also in transition, who are in the second chapter. I'll see you next time. Bye.